focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks. Welcome to the Wealth on the Beach podcast with Daniel Alonzo. And of course, I am your host. It's episode number 48. And today I've been waiting for this for a long time to interview one of the most successful women in the auto space. Her name is Lisa Copeland. She's a powerful female keynote speaker, a business leader, and dedicated pioneer in sales and brand strategy. She's been a trailblazer, revolutionizing the automobile industry, and received many awards and honors along the way. Awarded top 100 women in the automotive industry. Lisa's consulting firm, Lisa Copeland Global Enterprises, helps business owners and entrepreneurs build more scalable and successful businesses that generate more profit through her strategic, the art of the big sell, focused on selling a movement over product with a vast client list that includes Google, Subaru, Dell, State Farm, H&R Block, and many more. Lisa, thank you for being on with me. Real quick question. What's your superpower?
My superpower is empowering women. That's what I do.
Well, thank you very much for being here with us today. How you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing good, but I'm not doing as good as you because I'm looking at my backdrop. I'm sitting in an office and you're sitting on the beach.
Yeah, kind of close. Not exactly, but kind of close. Hey, Lisa, thank you very much for being on with us today. You know what, before we get started, because I really want to go into we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening. We have a lot of business owners listening and watching. And so we're going to get into a lot of strategy, ideas, and great stuff. But I want to go back to your journey and find out a little bit about, where you came from. Where did it all start for Lisa Copeland?
Oh, thank you. Okay, I love to tell this story. I started out as a car salesman.
Okay, right out.
You can't make this stuff up, right? I started out as a car sales professional, I like to say now. But back then, you were just a car salesman. In the mid-'80s in Dallas, Texas. And, I worked my way up through the dealership world, very, very male dominated. You're always a pioneer. I was always one of the only women. And, and I did that for about 15 years. And then I had kids and I decided I did not want to spend every Saturday. So I took about a 10-year break from the automotive industry and I started a mortgage company, Austin Mortgage Associates, which is still in business today. My husband runs it. I started a mortgage, insurance, and financial services company. Then I decided I was leaving it in good hands, and I went back into the automotive industry as a consultant. And I think my most proud moment was that I relaunched the Fiat brand to the United States.
Wow, very nice. And so that's what an exciting career that you've built for you and your family, and you should be so proud of yourself. Hey, Lisa, let's go back a little bit further and tell me a little bit about your childhood and what did your parents do and what was your childhood like?
That's awesome. My mother's going to love this. My father was an entrepreneur in the high tech industry, and so I grew up in Silicon Valley, so we owned an 8-track. We owned a company that made 8-track tapes, cassette tapes, VHS, videotapes. My mother was also equally as amazing. My mother's still alive. She went back at about 35 years old and got her PhD. So I came from a family of very high achievers. Very interesting though. My mom likes to run things very safe, which is why she went and got her doctorate and worked for the state until she retired. My dad was an entrepreneur, like a fearless entrepreneur. And so I definitely got that from him. He used to tell me, kid, you never want to work for someone else.
Did you have a privileged childhood? Do you think, did you grow up kind of with a lot of money and never had to worry? So, and I think that's interesting because you're so driven and you've been so successful and you've been such a driver in your industry. How did you do that? Because, I see a lot of privileged kids. Yeah. They come out, what advice would you give my kids? You know, my kids have grown up pretty privileged. I mean, what
Yes.
advice would you give them?
Well, I would give the advice to you. And one thing that my parents did a really good job. Yes, we lived in beautiful homes. I had horses. Yes, I lived a very privileged childhood. But one of the things that they laid the groundwork very early is that I had to work for what I wanted. I had to work for my car. I had to, I had to clean the house. I mean, we didn't have a bunch of maids. We couldn't have. So, his brewer and told me, he said, I'm not just going to give it to you. You have to work for it. And so I spent my whole life working. I got my first job at 14 years old. I lied about my age because back then, they couldn't check. And it was at Farrell's Ice Cream. And you had to be 15 to work in the state of California. And I was like 13 and a half. And I went and I had taken the bus down there and I came home and I told my dad, I got a job. And he goes, good. He goes, how'd you get a job? You're not old enough. I told him I was 15. My dad said, good. You're also a good negotiator. I mean, like that was his answer. Not like, oh my God, you broke the law. He was happy I had a job. And it was on the other side. I lived in San Jose. It was on the other side of San Jose. I got on a bus every afternoon after school, and I took the bus down to Farrell's, and I was a waitress, and I took the bus home, and it was like an hour bus ride each way. And I don't know why I picked that, but I just knew from an early age I wanted to work because I wanted to have money.
I just think it's crazy because, I mean, my daughter's 13, and I can't even imagine her on a bus by herself, one way, an hour. You know, it's just it's amazing how the world has changed, right?
Yes. And I mean, I was going into East San Jose, so I was going into a pretty sketchy part of town.
That's crazy.
But you know what? So, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's
it.
And
if you understand that if you want something bad enough, you'll figure out how to navigate the waters.
Well, I think that's why, the next thing I want to kind of jump into, because you have a few words that are very important to you, and words like fearless. What does fearless mean to you? What really is fearless?
Right. So when I talk about being fearless, I talk about fearing less, fear.less. And that is to take one extra step today that you wouldn't have taken yesterday, right? And it is to try to fear less, because I think if you're fearless, I think you're reckless. But if you can push yourself into a mindset that you're willing to fear less, to take a chance, to make that, especially if you're in sales, right? To make that phone call, to make that follow-up, to cold call that client that maybe yesterday you're like, oh, I know they're going to reject me, so I'm just not going to do it. No, fear less, make the call, right? And that's what I think, that's what binds people. There are people out there that are, people say to me, I think you're fearless. I am a pretty fearless person. I was born that way. I don't think most people are like me. I'll go drive a car at 190 miles an hour. I will go do whatever, but that's born. But the majority of people let fear block them. And so when I talk about it, I'm like, you've got to learn to fear less, face everything and rise, that's it. It's to face everything and rise. That should be your definition of fear. And for some people, it's a process.
It is a process for most people, because I think that we've been, especially society, we've been bred, or we've been, brainwashed into thinking that the world is scary, though. Don't you think, because of news? Yes, but the news makes it more scary than it really is. I believe that we're such a fear-based society. Yes, we have to fear less, because we're so scared of everything. We're scared to talk to people. We're scared to ask for what we want. We're scared of what people think about us. We're scared. I mean, people are freaking walking around like scared zombies in the world today. And it's sad. It really is sad. So I love that fear less. That makes a lot of sense. Initiative. What is initiative?
So it's taking the first step, So in my acronym FIERCE, I do a daily show called 15 Minutes of Fierce. And FIERCE is an acronym. So F, of course, is to fear less. I is to take initiative. Like, there are so many people, and they're walking around, they're like, I'm stuck, I can't move forward. I'm like, you haven't even taken the initiative to do it, right? It's taking ownership of your ideas, taking ownership of your career or your job. There are, so many people out there that live in this victim mentality. And I'm like, you haven't even tried to take the initiative to get it done. What are we complaining about here, people? And I think it's really important that we take initiative and that we make a decision that we're going to be successful, right? I mean, you're not going to make me successful, and I'm not going to make you successful. You and I are both successful because we took the initiative, we took the risks, and we did it. We also failed along the way. You know, you and I don't know each other very well yet, but I think we'll end up being friends. But, you know, I don't know about you, but I have failed many times along the way. But the more I fail, the closer I get to where I want to be.
Trust me, I failed lots and lots of times. A lot
right?
of situations that you go, oh my God, here we go
Well,
again.
You're not failing today because that beach, that background.
Well, you know, it's crazy because I mean the next word in the fierce is engage. And so when I think about engage, I think about that. I mean, initiative is taking that first step. Engage to me, and I could be wrong, you can define it for us, but engage means, you know, you gotta push it forward. You gotta move whatever it is that you're trying to win at. You gotta push it forward. What does engage mean to you?
Exactly what you just said. I mean, without engagement, you know, you can take the initiative, but, you know, and it's also, when I talk about engagement, I talk about being present. Like right now, you know, I'm not thinking about anything other than your listeners, you, and our conversation, right? It's so engagement is exactly what you said. It's forward movement, but it's also about being present, because I think people fail in life and in business and in relationships because they are not present in the moment. They are distracted.
And relentless.
Oh, I love relentless. You've got to be relentless. You know, my first book was called Crushing Mediocrity: 10 Ways to Rise Above the Status Quo. And, you know, and I got beat up for the book. Oh, mediocrity, you know, and I'm like, hey, I'm not saying mediocrity is bad. It isn't. The whole world is mediocre, but I don't want to be mediocre, and I don't want people to work for me to be mediocre. And, you know, people that are mediocre, they're the ones who walk around, you know, popping Xanax all day long. Because there is no purpose, right? Nothing's thrusting them forward, a higher or greater purpose. So I believe that once you have landed on what that is, what your purpose is, what you were put on planet Earth to do, that you've got to be relentless in the pursuit of that, and you've got to be relentless in the pursuit of excellence. Otherwise,
you're a great role. I mean, man or woman, okay? You are a great role model. I mean, I feel people's energy. That's why I'm glad we're on Zoom, you know, doing this, because I can see your inflection in your you know, your facial expressions and your voice inflection, and it's like, to me, you're a great example of anybody that wants to have success. So if you're listening right now or watching, you need to really pay attention to what she's talking about, because this is different. Not everybody thinks like you, Lisa. You are totally different. You're totally special. And I'm just telling you that a lot of people, if they would just pay attention, read your books, watch your videos, you know, try to connect with somebody like you, you're gonna be that person in their life that's gonna guide them to take them to that next level. Because, you know, to me, being relentless is, I mean, that's everything. I mean, if you don't take a stand in your life and become a relentless person, a determined person, it just can't happen for you. And so anyways, approval addiction.
You're gonna fail.
Well, yeah, you're going to fail. And
right.
Probably a lot of people fail because of approval addiction. What does that mean?
Yeah. So the C in fierce is to crush approval addiction.
Okay.
You know, and especially with women, you know, I work heavily, you know, I've got a radio show on iHeart, a lot of things, you know, towards women. And, you know, we're all so worried. Do you like me? Do you like what I'm wearing today? How does my hair look? Like, what, you know, I can't go out and make that sales call. I can't go out and do this today because I'm worried about what someone might say, you know, my hair, whatever. It's like approval addiction to me is just one more excuse as to why people will not be successful. But you've got to learn to crush approval addiction. If you're truly walking in where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing, you can't worry about what everybody else says about you. And at our level, Daniel, you and I've got trollers. It happens. People go out there and they just want to, you know, sometimes people don't like people like you and I. We're very public. We're very out there. And so, you know, the trollers want to come in and they want to say, oh, well, this about, and it's like, you know what? Forget about it. You know, I can't worry if somebody in the social media realm doesn't like me, or if a journalist takes me down or whatever. I can't worry about it because I'm going to do me. And that's what I tell people: do you, and don't worry about what other people think, as long as what you're doing is legal, ethical, and moral.
I love that.
So,
And I love the way you said that, because I've been saying that for 20 plus years. I mean, no kidding. I said, look, I don't care. As long as it's legal, ethical, and moral, I
yeah,
will do it, and I
yeah,
will get the job done. Any way, anyhow, I need to get the job done.
exactly.
Just
Legal,
a
ethical, and
mindset.
moral.
That's it. That's it. Just, it's a
My only
mindset,
compass.
right? That's it. So I love it. And I think that honestly, the addiction approval is a disease today,
It
though.
is.
It really is. People are afraid. Like, I have agents. I run a financial services company as well, and I have 1,500 licensed agents that work in my organization.
Wow.
And there are some of my agents, because I'm trying to get them involved in social media, make their presence more known, and they're afraid to make a 15-second video on their
Yeah.
story on Instagram if it's not filtered perfectly, if it doesn't look perfectly, if it does, it's like they're frozen, paralyzed by approval addiction.
Right. It's fear.
Right?
It's approval addiction. And I love that you said that, because you and I both know sometimes you gotta hit click. And I will say to your agents and to your listeners, nobody wants to watch a Hollywood production on Insta. People want to see the raw and the real. And every single morning when I get up and I do my show, I have my hair in a fierce baseball hat. I usually don't have very much makeup on. Who the hell's ready at 6:45 a.m. in the morning? Nobody. So it's the real me. And that's why it's 15 minutes. And I think, and we don't boost it. We don't throw it out there. I figure the people that want to watch it and they follow it. And I've got a pretty big following, but I want it to be the real me, because that is the real me at 6:45. It isn't having my hair and makeup team having me ready so I can present for 15 minutes. Cause then I wouldn't connect with that audience in the same way. And so I would really challenge your agents and your listeners to go out there and just get real. People buy you. They buy the real you. They don't buy your hair. They don't buy your makeup. They don't buy the clothes. Well, they kind of buy the clothes you wear. I won't lie. I do. I am a very big believer. You have to show up for the job you want. But that being said, with the exception of that, it's getting real and it's making that human connection. And I spent many years in the financial services business. I did sell off my financial services business, but I did. And the more that I found, the more successful I got is when people got to know me, the real me. And I think that that's critical, because the number one thing that your agents, they're selling trust. Forget all the financial services stuff. They're selling trust, and trust doesn't happen unless you've got a connection between two people. And that connection needs to be between the client and the agent. And once you can make that connection, then you probably have a client for life. But nobody wants the Hollywood version. I don't believe that, So to me, that is a huge piece of success in the financial services business. Our mortgage company's been in business for 22 years, and we've got the same clients and agents and builders for 22 years. But it is because, we have taken them on the journey of life with us. When I was a car dealer, people I did mortgages for, they bought cars from me. They were not my mortgage client or my car client. They were my client, period. So no matter what I was selling, they were buying.
Love it.
Still
Love it. Love it. Execute. Yeah. How do we got to execute, man?
You just got to do it, right? How are you unapologetically fierce 365 days a year, if you don't execute? I don't know if you all have ever read the book, but my dear friend Sharon Lechter wrote it with Napoleon Hill Foundation, and it's 3 Feet from Gold. And the majority of sales professionals, and I speak all over the world on this, the majority of sales professionals stop 3 feet from gold. They didn't make that one final call. They didn't do the follow-up. They were not relentless. They were worried that they had a bad meeting. So now all of a sudden they just backed away, approval addiction, right? They're not taking the initiative for their own success. They stopped 3 feet from gold. And the people like you and me were like, okay, good. They just got out of our way, and we're going to go for the kill. And
less competition, man. Less competition. When they decide to drop out, it's less people you got to worry about. I was actually just with Sharon a couple of weeks ago at her house, and I did her podcast. She interviewed me on her podcast. So I'm actually building a great relationship with Sharon. She's a wonderful lady.
Friends.
Yeah, she's amazing. So tell her next time you talk to her, say, hey, how'd you like hanging out with Daniel? So we had a great time.
He's a great way.
All right. So tell me a little bit about, come on, we've all made some mistakes. So tell me one of your mistakes, man, that if you could just go back and go, man, why did I do that? Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, let's see. Yes, I mean, I probably have a lot of them. Not sure I want to share all of those on the podcast, but I would say probably one of the mistakes that I made is when I actually wrote about it in my first book because I failed as a leader. So my dealership, when I relaunched Fiat to the US, I was the first dealer in the country to bring the brand back, take the chance. And we opened up in a high-end shopping center, just an amazing place. And so I hired the anti-car salespeople. I hired women, I hired millennials, and I hired minorities, everything the car business doesn't want to see. And we had this great culture. Well, we were so successful, I ended up having to build a $9 million building in Austin and move out to a traditional setting, a traditional car dealership. And I had sold and built a reputation on being the anti-car dealer. So when I had to make the move, I had to open up a service department. We had sold thousands of cars. Like, it was time, stuff was about to get real. We were no longer a boutique. We were number one in the country, very high profile. I did not prepare my team for the move. So I had this young millennial sales team, and I was just so caught up in building a building and staying number one and being on the national dealer, everything. I was caught up in me that I didn't do a good job transitioning my team. I ended up losing half of the number one sales team in the world, literally, because they broke the world sales record. I ended up losing half of them because they kind of got caught up in my dust, in my frenzy of everything I was doing. And because we had grown so fast, I was no longer that leader that I used to be when we were just small and together we were relaunching this brand and we were going to revolutionize the industry. Now I was a full-on car dealer. And I got into that mode and I lost half my team and I was not able to recover from that. Well, I mean, let me back up. Of course I recovered. I mean, we still stayed number one, but I had to go hire a new team. I had to reset expectations. And then I had a lot of apologies to give.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, people don't realize that us as leaders, really what we're in the people business.
Absolutely.
If you don't manage your people well and lead your people well and create a culture of family and trust and building, and it could be problematic. Would you agree?
It's devastating. I mean, it happened to me. Like, I just knew one day we were moving from one building into this massive complex that I had just built. And, and one by one, and they'd all talked about it. And one by one, they were coming in and resigning. Like, we're not doing this. This is you're taking us to a space that you told us was bad. You told us we were. I was just like, oh my God, how did I miss the people? How did I miss the people? And I did. It was an epic fail.
What are some of the sales mistakes that salespeople make?
Overpromise and underdeliver. That would be number one in my book. Not being knowledgeable about your products. And most importantly, not being knowledgeable about your competition's products. I know my competitors better than they know themselves. Those are my top three.
It's I'm actually writing this down. I remember when I first got into business, it was probably like my second or third appointment. And I went to go see a really, really successful person. She was a lawyer. And I remember she told me that. So when you said that to me, it just took me back 22 years or something like that. She said, under promise and over deliver. And that was it. And it just stuck with me so many years. It just stuck with me my entire career. And so pretty powerful stuff. Why do we need to know our competition? And why is that important?
Because the competition's out what we're out selling against. And so when I was in the financial, because I know that's the majority of your audience. So when I was in the financial services, in the mortgage business, I started an insurance company, right? I thought I'm just going to be the one-stop shop for all of my clients. So for example, we were a farmer's agency. That's the easiest one for me to remember. So, I needed to know what State Farm was up to and USAA and all of that, because, I was, what I was trying to do was move that book of business over. So, without taking down my competition, because I don't believe in bad mouthing. So without, I wanted to show how my products had more value than what they were paying for before. So I would know State Farm was just the one that I was able to always do really well against, from a cost standpoint and from a value prop standpoint. And so when I could break down and I could show the customer, hey, our product's 30% less expensive and we have 20% more coverage, boom, 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 boom. And they're like, oh, okay. Then I'll tell you, you earn their business. You truly earn that client's business. Number one. Number two, you keep their business because they're like, wow, you truly are an expert. You're an authority in what you do. And so knowing your competition inside and out better than they know themselves, because you can know that 90% of your competitors don't know what they're doing and how they're doing it and why they're doing it. That's just the nature of the beast. You really build that authority brand. And when you're an authority in the financial services or the automotive industry, you have a customer for life. They don't go shop. They don't go out and they're not worried about an extra $100 on a policy or $50 a month. They're like, no way, no how. I have my expert. I have my consultant, whatever we call ourselves. And people don't leave you. They don't leave you. And that's a misnomer with salespeople. They're like, oh, I had salespeople, they're like, well, I'm going to work at the dealership across the street because, the cars are less expensive and people need lower payments. I'm like, then you're not doing your job. People buy you, and people are willing to pay whatever it takes to know that they can sleep well at night, to know that their homes are insured, to know that their investments for the future and their legacies are insured. It's never about the money. It's never about the money.
I remember early on getting on the phone and calling other insurance companies, finding out how they sold their policies. I mean,
Yes.
that's how important what you just said is. And to my career and how successful I was selling insurance and investments and all the stuff that we market. And so it was so important to me to make sure I understood how, not only when I was across the kitchen table with a client, but also when I was training my agents, because I'm big at training. I mean, I'm big on training, making sure my people are competent and confident and know their shit, because, most people, it's sad. I mean, people go into the sales business and they don't realize that sales is an art. There is an art to sales. You can't just get up and wing it and think you're going to become a good salesperson. I mean, who was one of your first sales trainers or first sales mentors early on? Did you have any?
I didn't have any personally, no. But I'll really date myself on this, but I really started, this was in the 80s, it's so funny. I started following Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins. And we spoke about Sharon Lecter earlier.
That's it.
So I was at Sharon's birthday party in Arizona, and I look across the room. This was 3 months ago. And I look across the room and there was Tom Hopkins sitting in the room. And I walked up to him and I'm like, I am who I am today. And he's like, who are you? Who are you? Obviously worthy to be at Sharon Lecter's birthday party, right?
Right.
Anyways, and I'm like, but I am who I am today because of you, because of your books, because of your leadership, because of your mentorship. Now, I would say I don't know that he's as relevant, to maybe some of your agents, right? I mean, so now today, I'll tell you some of the ones I love today is, you look at Relentless, Tim Grover, and Grant Cardone, and some who I think are some of the great ones, right? And I think you and I are two of the great ones. I mean, you and I are both on national stages and telling people how to do it, but we had to learn it somewhere. Right. And I will say, when I've met so many celebrities and whatever, but it was like I had to go pay homage to Hopkins when he was at Sharon's house.
Awesome. Well, what's funny is that Tom Hopkins is my original mentor as well. Okay. So I when I first got in business, I had won a Fast Start award, and the award was tapes, a whole 20 tapes of Tom Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling. Okay. Yes. It was the tape cassettes. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So I listened to these tapes I did not watch TV. I did not listen to radio in my car or whatever. I listened to these tapes for 6 months to a year straight, Lisa. Right. I mean, I'm talking, I ran these tapes into the ground. And actually my mentor, he used to be like a Tom Hopkins trainer for a little period of time, and then became really successful in our company. And course, so I know Tom Hopkins. So I've actually spoke on stage with him before, and
Oh, that's
so
cool.
he is totally an icon. And you know, a lot of people don't know that Anthony Robbins, he has like a video or whatever that I watched years ago. It's called The Power of Influence, that really impacted me big time as well. So people might want to go check that out. So yeah, Tony Robbins was a big mentor as well. So hey, look, what kind of car do you drive?
I drive a Mercedes.
Okay.
But I have driven lots of great cars over the years. My favorite, and I'm very much considering buying the new Levante Maserati. But when I was a Fiat dealer, my funny thing was I always drove a new Gran Turismo. And, you know, and everyone's like, but you're the Fiat dealer. I'm like, but Fiat Chrysler Automobiles owns the Maserati brand. So, you know, I just didn't want to drive a Fiat. Let's call it. Come on. So, you know, I always drove the Gran Turismo, and now I'm in a Mercedes, and I like it okay. But I'm getting my need back for my Italian sports car.
What's your thoughts, okay, on electric cars and the whole movement towards electric? And because I drive a Tesla, so I own a Tesla.
Of course you do.
So what's your thoughts?
Of course you do. I would have totally pegged you for a Tesla driver too.
Okay, all right.
Yes, so I think electrification, I think it's really important. You know, you spoke earlier about the press and how the press can make anything. Electrification is not coming the way, first of all, Elon Musk is about 6 months from being broke. We know that, right? So if he doesn't raise a lot more money, and I like Elon, I didn't like him when I was a car dealer because I don't like their distribution model as a franchised car dealer. You know, anyways, that's another subject. But so electrification, you know, it's there, it already exists. But like I live in Texas, and so there's a lot of Teslas in Texas, but you know, everything is like, it's a long range to get from A to B where I live. I live in Austin, in the capital. And so, you know, we're not really, I mean, we are a state that produces oil and gas. We're not super hot on electrification. I know out in California, it's very, very popular, you know, and in some of the cities. So as hot and as cool as it sounds, I think that it's going to be better in certain parts of the country. And then it's also going to take consumer adoption. And at the end of the day, you know, people do have that fear. Fiat had an electric car. And people have the fear, well, what happens if, like, my car runs out of juice? I'm like, you're on the side of the road. That's what happens. You need to plan it. There is no magic wand we can wave to charge up your car, right? And so I was kind of on the front end of electrification with Fiat brand because we had to do it so that we could get enough credits to sell Ram trucks. So,
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if you know that about electrification. So Tesla sells credits. So the government gives credits for electric vehicles. And so Tesla sells them to companies like FCA, like Ram trucks, because we have to have a certain amount of credits, electrification credits, to be able to build cars, otherwise, or to build trucks. Otherwise, there's huge tariffs put on. Wow. And so, you know, Tesla has been good for that. And like I said, I don't have a beef with Tesla at all, but I love Elon Musk. I feel like he's a visionary. He's a guy ahead of his time. But he has a product that might have a shelf life on it. It might, right, because of his lack of automotive experience. So it's interesting, but you know, I am rooting for him.
It's you know, I mean, he's a perfect example of brave, because the dude's got some real, you know, he's got some balls, man. This guy, I mean, is like to do what he did. I mean, I don't know if there's too many people that get a check for $200 million and the next day they spend it on a space company and a car company, electric car company. That's insane. I mean, that's insane.
It's insane, and it's cool at the same time.
It is.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's cool. Very cool.
You know, I actually said this on a podcast one time. I think it was one of my own, but I said, you know, I never thought that there was life, I've never thought that there's extraterrestrial beings on planet Earth. I said, but when I have followed Elon Musk, I think he's in. I think he had to come down from another planet, because who has that kind of vision? Who has that kind of, the guy's unbelievable. Like, I would give anything to have lunch with him, just for an hour.
Right.
Planet Earth dropped here.
Yeah, I lost your sound real quick. I lost your sound. I don't know what happened. Okay. So anyways, just you want to have lunch with Elon.
Yes. Yes, I want to have lunch with Elon because I want to say to him, were you born on planet Earth or were you dropped here? Because he's so he's so forward thinking, and he's got to be the most forward thinking human probably in the history of the world.
Right. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, look, tell me, we're going to kind of wrap this thing up pretty soon, but I just want to find out, like, how do people connect with you, Lisa? I mean, and I know you got a new book. So tell us about your new book and how we can connect with you.
I thought I put it up here. So the best way to connect with me, my website is lisacopeland.com. So that's a great way to connect with me. Social media, I'm all over social. My company is carsherway.com. And so you can see what we're all about and what what we do in the automotive industry. And I've got an iHeartRadio show. So you can go to iHeartRadio and download my podcast from iHeart. It's an automotive podcast. And, I'm pretty easy to find. Now, I will tell you all this. If you're out Googling me, I'm not the over 50 dating coach.
Oh, is there another Lisa Copeland?
Yes.
Over
yes.
50.
And she's a regular contributor for HuffPo. And so, sometimes, she's up there quite a bit. So I'm not, that is not my side hustle. I am all things automotive. So, and then my new book, Car Buying Her Way, The Fierce Girl's Roadmap to the Car of Your Dreams, is available on Amazon.
And what's that about? Like, what are we going to get from that book?
Yeah, so that, it's a couple things. Number one, it's really pulling back the curtain on the automotive industry. Not only, I have a lot of my stories in there. I interview a lot of people in there. It's a business book too, because it's like everything I learned as being a car dealer. But I also talk about future innovation, autonomous cars, electrification, subscription-based, the future of transportation. It's a lot of stuff. It's a really good book. I'm super proud of it. We came out at #1 on Amazon, #1 new bestseller. And like we didn't even try to. It was one of those things that my industry got behind us and ordered a lot of books. So I'm super grateful. But yeah, it's exciting times. It is. And the thing that I love the most is that I do what I love every single day. And did I lost you for a second?
No, yeah, we're good.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I do what I love every single day. And I do it with people that I respect and I admire. And so with that being said, it's a good life.
You look like you're living a great life, Lisa.
I don't have palm trees in my background.
I can feel it. I'm just telling you. All right. So, well, if you go onto Instagram and just do #Alonzo Castle, you can get pictures of my house. So you'll be able to see some pictures of my house. So that way you get to see the whole thing. That way you get to go see the whole thing. All right. Last couple questions. Dream car, rapid fire here. Dream car. What is it?
Oh my God, the dream car, the new Karma, the new Karma. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, okay. My wife's name is Karma. My wife's name is Karma. There you go.
Well, so it's actually a Fisker, and
yes.
And a client of mine, Post Oak Motors, sells them, and I drove one the other night, and it's fabulous.
They're beautiful. Oh yeah, we test drove one. What's the most important thing you can do to improve yourself?
Be a student. Be teachable.
If you owned a restaurant, what kind of food would you serve?
Tex-Mex.
All right. What was your first car you learned to drive in?
A 1983 Cutlass Supreme Oldsmobile.
Would you rather have a gift card or actual gift?
Gift card.
Would you travel to space if possible?
Yes.
What's your ultimate dream?
That in my lifetime, that the automotive industry achieves parity between women and men. That women have equal opportunities in the automotive industry as the men have had.
You're amazing. You are an amazing woman. And I'm so happy that I got to meet you. And I know my audience right now, what they're going to do is they're going to go out there and they're going to share this podcast. And the second thing they're going to do is they're going to follow you on all those social media platforms because they want to get to know you and they want to learn from you. Because, one of the things I think we need to do a part 2 down the road. And I really want to get into sales techniques and sales ideas and really go a little bit further. I don't feel like we had enough time today, but I really want to do that. Okay. So, but I want people to go find your stuff, because I think that you're going to be able to teach a lot of men and women. Okay. And by the way, if you're a man, you need to learn how women sell, because you need to learn how women think. And if you know how women think, you can better sell to women. So, because the women are buying a lot of stuff today, it's not like,
Daniel, you're hired. You're hired.
Yeah, they're everything, so, okay. And I just want to remind everybody, we're still signing people up every day for our Wealth on the Beach Club. It's 1 hour with Daniel Alonzo every single week. 1 full hour with me, Q&A and lessons. Check out alonzoacademy.com for more details. As always, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lots of free, valuable content. As always, guys, make sure that you dream bigger, but make sure that you also do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.